biggest changes in strength and conditioning?
Okay, so this is a really interesting question. As you continue to train boxers, what's something that you've changed your mind on? And especially recently, since I'm sure you've changed your mind on plenty of things over the course of your career. Interesting question this. When I was first starting in boxing, I was not only inexperienced in boxing, but also inexperienced in strength and conditioning. I probably went more textbook approach when first starting boxing, and then moving towards more experience and trying to get the best out of boxers and combat athletes as they prepare for competition. Potentially it's the use of Olympic lifting. I come from a background in terms of like university, UKSCA route, Olympic lifting being the gold standard way to develop athletes, strength, speed and power. But actually working with boxers is quite difficult to implement Olympic lifting because of the short training camps where we're needing to optimize that strength and speed and power going into each fight in very short windows. They have a lot of mobility issues. If it's not overhead mobility and stability, it's also imbalances between each side, whether it's imbalances in strength and stability of each shoulder or of the lower body. This makes the technique and the loading strategies quite difficult to implement. So when I first started out, I was big on trying to develop boxers in a way to start implementing Olympic lifting. And then now I'm looking for the quick and easy wins to start overloading athletes to help improve their strength, speed and power characteristics. I'd swap Olympic lifting out for heavy deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts from blocks, also doing partial range exercises on the squatting exercises as well. But then have that transfer to strength, speed and power exercises, looking to accommodate in resistance or doing some trap bar jumps. And make sure these trap bar jumps are done heavy and they're monitored in terms of their jump height or the lifting velocity to make sure that we're optimizing momentum. Even though there's a technique to this, it's less technical demands on doing the loaded jumps than would be doing the Olympic lifting. Another thing that I've changed my mind on, this isn't too recent, the use of running for conditioning. When we first started out, the university, all of our conditioning sessions were done either on the motorized treadmill or on the non-motorized treadmill, or a lot of people will know this as the curve. And we've got fighters pretty fit on this. There was a limited, in terms of the intensities that they could reach and hold, especially during our repeated sprint or our sprint interval training sessions. And also this had a big impact on their training elsewhere because of the increased force and impact loads going through the lower body. Now that we've moved to the Boxing Science Performance Centre and we have access to an assault bike, we much prefer doing the assault bike for the high intensity conditioning. We do mix it up between using the curve and also using the motorized treadmill, but for repeated sprint protocols and also our sprint interval training, we prioritize the assault bike over running base conditioning. And the reason why, we've reduced and totally taken away them impact forces going through the lower body. We're also being able to reach increased intensities because there's a lower technical demand on doing the assault bike compared to high speed running. So we're able to then reach increased intensities, but then also being able to hold it, especially on the 30-second sprints. When we're doing the 30-second sprints before, pushing our athletes to the extreme levels of fatigue, by the third or fourth rep, the peak speed was reduced and also the maintenance of speed was reduced as well. And this affected the quality of the session and the adaptations that we're targeting. Biosen lactate analyzer, looking at lactates of 19 or 20 millimole per litre being some of the highest values that we got. When we're doing the 30-second sprints on the assault bike, we see 20 millimole quite often and beyond. We see most athletes hitting 23, 24, 25 millimole per litre. And this is just showing that we're depleting that muscle cell further to then increase the adaptation that we're targeting during them 30-second sprints. So we've found a safer way to perform the 30-second sprints by doing the assault bike compared to the curve, but also it's more effective because we're showing that we're maintaining that intensity for longer, we're depleting that muscle cell even further, and then we're going to be stimulating that adaptations that we're trying to target during the 30-second max out sprints. And the third thing would be, for me, how crucial making weight safely and effectively is. When I first started working in boxing, I was working with amateurs, low-level professionals, youth athletes that weren't making weight or struggling to make the weight as such. Amateurs are quite close to the weight. When you're working with low-level professionals or up-and-coming professionals, they're not making championship weight. As soon as I started working with athletes making championship weight, I realized the dangers of making weight and also how that can undo the progress that you make throughout a training camp. Instead of like finding that out in the short term, let's say a few weeks before a fight or just a few hours before weighing, it's really important to have the knowledge and understanding on how difficult that this weight cut could be. We can find this out with 8, 10, even 12 weeks before an athlete is fighting. The main reasons why we know this is because we have performance nutritionist Lee Rickards. Go and follow him on Instagram at boxingscience_nutrition. And he performs the body composition analysis where we're finding out body fat, lean mass, fat-free mass. This data is really important to find out how tight an athlete is at the weight, what weight that they should fight at, how hard that it could be, or how easy that it could be. And then the second test that we do is really important is our resting metabolic rate assessment. And this is probably the easiest test that we do at Boxing Science. It's actually the hardest thing to do is to keep awake. This is assessing how many calories that you burn during resting. And from this, we can create some calculations based on your training loads, your training schedule, on how many calories that you're likely to burn each day. And then a detailed nutrition plan can help you fuel each day adequately whilst also making weight safely. Using the body composition, using the resting metabolic rate can then inform us how hard will it be for this athlete to make weight. Do they need to make adjustments in terms of what weight category that they're in? Or if they're going to stick at that weight category, what adjustments do we need to make to their training? Do we need to go for a higher volume, high intensity conditioning approach? Do we need to focus on central adaptations rather than repeat sprint conditioning because we're needing to increase that energy expenditure? Is there any room to increase muscle mass? Or is there an athlete that tight at the weight that we need to avoid any sort of muscular hypertrophy work? I think that is a key thing for me. Learning and understanding the weight making process takes precedence over the training that you're wanting to put in. So the three biggest changes would be the use of Olympic lifting, transferring that into doing some loaded jumps and ballistic work instead. The second one would be the use of off-feet conditioning, even in our high intensity conditioning sessions. And then thirdly would be the importance of the weight making process and how that weight making process isn't in the final week, isn't in the final hours before weight cut, but should be considered even 12 weeks in advance.